studios. This is After 9 with Scott and Kat.
Hey now.
Hello, friends.
Kat, the Oilers won last night. Can they do it? Can they come back from a 3-0 deficit and win the Stanley Cup?
Well, of course they can. Will they? I don't know.
Not
I don't have a
invested,
lot of faith, but cool. If they do, that's great. Yeah, overall, I'm like, but yeah, if they win it, cool.
I'd love to see them win it, especially if they could come back from down 3-0. Connor McDavid continues to just exemplify what a pro athlete is supposed to be. He has put that team on his back and showing leadership in spades. So good luck to the Oilers. Game 6 on Friday night. If there's a Game 7, I believe it's going to be next Monday.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken. Either way, that'll be lots of fun. Something to look forward to this weekend. Are you watching any of the Euro soccer? Because I feel like some people are really into it and other people don't even know what's going on.
Yeah, I don't, not for me, dog.
As far as today goes, we have, let's see here. We have Germany playing Hungary at noon. Scotland plays Switzerland at 3 this afternoon. And happening now as we record, Croatia is playing Albania.
Go Croatia.
Somebody said to me the other day, I'll watch when Canada plays. And that, unfortunately, is not going to happen. It is the Euros. So you may be thinking of the World Cup.
But we all have backgrounds and stuff. Like, I understand you consider yourself Canadian, but maybe you could cheer on something else.
Yeah. Hey,
right? Look into it.
Lots of different possibilities. Pretty good sports time either way. Okay, let's jump into the content. I want to start off with this. We have a new most valuable company in America. I think generally speaking, when somebody says, hey, what do you think the most valuable company is? The go-tos would be Amazon, Apple, Microsoft.
Yep.
It's now NVIDIA. They make chips that power AI devices, and apparently the demand for AI is going to be so huge in the coming future. These chips will be in everything from computers to phones to vehicles. The stock has shot up 174%.
Yeah.
Yesterday, it passed Microsoft as the most valuable company in America at over $3 trillion.
Yeah.
Do you think NVIDIA wants to buy Canada? Because they've got enough money to pay off our debt. and we could be your fancy prize, NVIDIA, for paying off the debt.
What would they want with us, though? It's not valuable.
All the space they need to make chips and all the other shit that they do.
Sure. We do have some vacant land. You're right.
We could name a lake after them. Could you get into going for a dip into Lake NVIDIA in exchange for no debt?
Yeah, maybe.
That would be good.
If our taxes get lowered, then bring it on.
What about the NVIDIA Tower there down beside the Rogers Center? That might be good.
NVIDIA Airlines, I mean, you name it.
Prime Minister NVIDIA, there's all kinds of possibilities. We just need a sugar daddy to come in and pay the bills.
It's just an AI chip leading the country. All hail.
So that's NVIDIA,
All
$3
right.
trillion. There's only 3 companies like that. It's Microsoft, Apple, and NVIDIA, all in the tech sector, by the way. Good for them. The LCBO gave us a little more information yesterday on their upcoming strike plans. It's not going to affect the Canada Day weekend. They're not going to walk until Friday, July the 5th, if they walk off the job. The LCBO employees want higher wages, more full-time jobs, and they want the government to walk back the plan to allow coolers and ready-made cocktails to be sold in convenience stores. They would like to continue to have a monopoly on that. The company says it wants to avoid a strike, but would also ensure continued customer service during a work stoppage.
They absolutely will not walk back on that. Like, it's out there, it's done. There's companies who have literally already spent a lot of money, I'll just say that much because it's in the millions, on those areas of the store that they're going to place these items on. There's stock that's already been purchased.
Yeah.
It's not happening. They're not walking back. It's not realistic to ask for that at this point, I think. Kind of a waste of time.
Isn't it? I mean, I heard an interesting point about this yesterday, and I think we sort of think of the LCBO a little differently than most other retail jobs. But at the end of the day, that's essentially what it is. It's really no different working at the LCBO than it is working at Winners or working at the Sport Check or wherever else. It's a job in retail. Now, you happen to sell alcohol, and in this province, for whatever reason, the government is the only ones allowed to sell alcohol. So, kinda a government job. And usually government jobs pay better, but at the end of the day, how much can we afford to spend on a retail position? I mean, most stores that have staff are paying in and around minimum wage. Shouldn't the LCBO be in and around the same? Or does this need to be one of those high-paying, exceptionally well-compensated, amazing pension government jobs? I don't know.
I don't know.
Either way, though, it doesn't seem like the government's in a real hurry to resolve this one. Doesn't seem like they're racing to the bargaining table. It's almost like a dare. You want to go out on strike? Go ahead and go out on strike.
I just find it interesting. Like anybody who's in the position of your job potentially becoming scarce or less people going into any business, right? The last thing you want to do is strike or have less people go to it to make yourself seem a little more irrelevant. Do you know what I mean? Because they're not going to walk back. They're not going to walk back on that plan. So all you'll do is highlight the fact that, it's okay. Soon enough, you'll be able to get it here and kind of bring more attention to it. No?
I think that the way it's probably going to end up, and I don't disagree with you at all, by the way, it's a serious concern. There's a lot of people who have been inconvenienced by strikes and things like that over the years and said, I'm just not going back there. Fuck it. For whatever reason. Maybe you sided with the workers, maybe you sided with the company, or maybe you just didn't like the fact that you couldn't get in or had to cross a picket line to get into it. In this case, though, again, we only have one option. You can only get liquor at the LCBO and their affiliate stores. So I think probably you'll be able to buy beer anywhere. That's kind of the way it is now. Grocery stores and the beer store. Soon corner stores will have it. And you'll be able to get wine in all these different places. I imagine that if you want a good selection of wine, you're probably going to have to go to the vintages section at the LCBO because I don't see too many variety stores stocking nice bottles of California Napa Merlot, you know?
Yeah, these are going to be like crap, someone's coming over quick, last second, Jackson Triggs it is, like whatever's there, right? Just the highly, not to say it's a bad one, but just a highly available one for here in Ontario. I think, mind you, you never know though. Like the way it works in other provinces even, like I think about when I went to Quebec, okay? So there's like stores that are there. They will ask patrons. If you're a regular customer, just like anywhere else, if you're a regular customer and you ask, they could start stocking things specifically for you.
Yep.
So that'll be the case with the convenience store purchases. I have no doubt about it. They're going to stock the common things and the ones that are basic and the ones that are cheaper because they know that you're probably there, not because you're planning ahead. You're just like, fucking last minute or because I'm here anyway. You're not picky is what I'm trying to say, right?
You're on your way to someone's home and you forgot to pick up wine. Just stop into a convenience store.
But I'm sure that they'll start with suggestions depending on the place, right? There's going to be the ones that are pretty cookie cutter and maybe like your Circle K's and 7-Elevens or Macs or whatever are all going to have their things they just have to do. And maybe there isn't any wiggle room, but maybe there is. Maybe some owners of those are going to say, write down your favorites because you never know. We could put them on the shelf and just see how it goes.
Yeah. And I mean, as I envision the way that this is probably going to roll out, like I said, beer will be available everywhere. We all know the different beer brands that are available. Some will stock this, some will stock that. When it comes to the wine, just like you said, Kat, the bigger companies, the Circle K's, the 7-Elevens, places like that, I could very easily see them cutting deals with various wineries to only stock their product. That shit bothers me, but hey, they're a private business and they're allowed to do that. And if I don't want to buy Wayne Gretzky, whatever, then maybe I'll go someplace that stocks alternatives as opposed to someone who's just got a deal. Yeah. When it comes to the pre-mixed coolers and things like that, you'll also be able to buy those in convenience stores. I find that very convenient. I think that's great. That's something that right now you do have to go to the LCBO for. Yeah. But the LCBO, I feel like they're creating a bit of, the union anyway, is creating a bit of doom and gloom here about what's going to happen. I mean, they're foretelling the province losing billions of dollars and LCBO stores closing and staff being laid off. And I don't see it happening like that. Until we're in a position where the government is ready to get out of the business and start selling off LCBO stores, like as a franchise, for example, there's always going to be an LCBO. If you want a bottle of gin, you can't go to a convenience store or a gas station and get that. You're going to have to go to the LCBO. In fact, maybe they'll be able to refine what they do a little bit and target in on more of the stuff that you can't get elsewhere and stop wasting their time with shelf space for beer and for every cooler under the sun. I mean, you'll be able to get them everywhere. Maybe this is an opportunity for the LCBO to make themselves very, very relevant in the new landscape. But like you said, I worry that they're going to piss everybody off and people are going to find another way to get their alcohol if they want to. By the way, as I understand it, even if the LCBO does go on strike, you'll still be able to do like the Uber Eats orders for, I want to order a 40-pounder of rye and stuff like that.
Wait, so there's still going to be someone there managing shipping them out?
Well, they say that even if there is a strike, they will maintain customer service. So I'm wondering, is it warehouse staff that are going to do it? Is it senior management that's going to staff the stores?
Maybe.
So even if a store isn't physically open, you may still be able to get your online orders.
Yeah, well,
that might help people a little bit for if you want to drink in 3 days.
What's the big deal then?
I don't
You know what I mean? Like, it's not much of a threat. Then the whole thing's kind of like not a threat. Most people can just order online. If it's that easy, they will.
I think
I
think the LCBO union is just looking at this as an opportunity to get a raise on the books before this happens.
Yeah.
And hey, good on them if they can actually negotiate a good settlement that works for the workers and works for the province. Good. I just don't want to see the government roll over and say, well, we don't want to strike, so we're going to pay them $45 an hour. I mean, any other retail job, that's a complete fantasy number. And we know that governments love to waste money, but how much money do we want to waste here? It's meant to be a fairly entry-level job if you're just run-of-the-mill stocking shelves and taking money at the till.
I wish people would be happy, you know, even with getting that, though. Do you find customer service to be, like, super happy? Like, people at Starbucks are happier than in the LCBO.
I totally agree with you. The LCBO people don't even talk to you anymore.
No.
It's weird. It's like they think everybody who comes through the door is about to rob them. They give you that look sometimes, and I'm like, the fuck? I'm just here for I need a bottle of vodka and a couple of coolers.
Not
Piss
a lot
off.
of niceties anymore. It's like, airplane. Sorry? Airplane. Oh, that's a question. No, I don't have it on me. Or, yeah, I'll get it. Hang on.
Yeah, I know.
You have a bag. Yes, I have a bag.
Is it that?
If that.
Is it a miserable place to work? It seems like a fine place to work. It's good air conditioning, well lit.
I would think the hours are decent. You know, you get your holidays off. I mean, gosh, I would think that there's a lot of perks. Of all the retails we're talking about, I would think that there's pretty good perks with that.
I would have too. Not taking sides in this. Maybe these workers are underpaid. I really don't know, but I do hope they avoid a strike. And if they can't avoid a strike, let's hope they at least get to negotiate a settlement fairly and that they're happy and we don't end up paying too much. Did you see the protest at Toronto City Hall yesterday?
No, what's this one about now?
30,000 people have now signed a petition to stop Toronto City Council from renaming Dundas Square to Sankofa Square.
Yeah.
I'm going to play a little bit of the executive committee hearing yesterday because this was very, very enlightening. Listen to this.
Did you see that as a dimension in the type of feedback that was captured by this petition?
Yeah,
Is that part of the discussion?
That's an absolutely correct assertion. And in fact, one of the most common comments the day after on all the social media accounts like SixBuzz, BlogTO, et cetera, everybody was saying, if we're going to do this, where was the transparency? Where was the public consultation? And I'll give you an example historically. When they were looking for a name for our new domed stadium in 1987, that was open to the city. I have the Star clippings. 150,000 people said, hey, let's pick, everybody submitted their name. For a civic exercise like this, for a major municipal landmark, if we had the fiscal resources to do it, we could have made it a unifying and wonderful naming exercise.
Did you see that as a dimension?
Yeah, absolutely right. People are...
Good point.
But you remember this just the same as I, because I remember we recorded a podcast the next day. They just came out and said, well, we've decided. We've voted to rename Dundas Square, and the committee had 5 names to choose from, and we picked Sankofa Square. And everybody was like, the hell? Was there a vote on this? I don't remember being asked. They didn't really consult with anybody. And yesterday at this executive committee, one of the members came out and said, anybody opposed to renaming it Sankofa Square is a racist.
Oh my God.
That's what they said. They are racist.
God.
And that's the kind of hyperbole that we do not need here in this conversation.
Oh no.
I still think that they've got the history of Henry Dundas wrong. I don't think that they understand exactly who Henry Dundas was or what he was all about. They've painted the history and legacy of this guy as some racist who tried to stop the slave trade. That's not who Henry Dundas was. I'm not a historian by any means, but everything I've known about the guy says that's not it. He actually tried to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. But they're very hell-bent on changing the name, and now the public is starting to realize, wait a second, you never even asked us.
Yeah.
The cost has shot up, by the way, from $330,000 to almost $900,000 just to change the name of Dundas Square. Couldn't we just leave it? 30,000 people signing a signature is pretty compelling.
Yeah.
Like, at what point does council say, yeah, we overplayed our hand. We tried to sneak this through. We tried to ram it through and hoping that we wouldn't get much opposition. But 30,000 is 30,000. That's a lot of people with a serious issue here.
Yeah, it sure is. I think they dealt with it wrong from the get-go. I'm curious what they're going to do now.
It's such a frustrating.
anything.
It's our city. Well, it's not my city. I don't live there. But for the people who live in Toronto, you have a right to be participating in this process.
Yes, you do.
You can't just have your history washed away like that. No. And these people, these virtue signaling politicians, not even politicians, some of them are just bureaucrats, come in and say, this is the way it's going to be. And if you disagree, you're a racist. Stop that. Let's have a conversation. If we agree, okay, you know what? Even if we don't agree on the history of Henry Dundas, we still want to change the name. Let's have a vote. Let's have a contest like they did for Rogers Center. It was Skydome. The person who submitted that won a great prize. The rumor is, I think Dave mentioned, the rumor is the old lady who sits behind home plate
Is the one that named it Skydome and gets tickets for life.
Yeah. Still sitting right behind home plate. Amazing. Let's have a contest like that. Maybe you get to ride the CN Tower or the TTC for free.
Yeah. Hey, that's not a bad, that wouldn't be a bad prize for people, by the way.
Transit for life?
TTC for life?
That's not bad.
Ooh, that's not bad at all.
What does a Metro Pass go for now? It's
a lot.
Like $150 or something like that. It's really, really bad. It's very, very expensive. But yeah, I mean, common sense here. People are opposed to this. You guys didn't have any transparency. You didn't hold a public consultation. You just did it. Where did this short list of names come from? You guys got to knock it off and actually listen to the people because they don't like it. 30,000 people is a very, very compelling number. Kat, let's do some stuff from some of our local areas here.
Okay.
Police in Brantford are searching for the driver of an ATV who crashed into the police's cruiser.
Oh, geez.
And then fled the scene on Monday night. So you got a couple of cops. They were driving around near Market Street and Erie Ave in Brantford. Spotted an ATV and two dirt bikes doing wheelies and doing all kinds of dangerous shit. Cop tries to pull them over. The two on the dirt bikes took off. They were gone. ATV isn't quite as fast. In him trying to get away, he went smacked right into the cruiser. So a little dazed and confused, then this guy takes off on foot into a wooded area. At what point do you think he's going to say, yeah, I'll get arrested if I turn myself in, but I want my ATV back? I mean, they're not cheap. That was a $10,000 purchase.
He must have been right fucked up.
He had to have been.
He had to have been really, really like Justin Timberlake style intoxicated.
Yeah. Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that. We'll come back to the local
You know we're
stuff.
going to talk about that too.
Actually, you're right. We'll save the Justin
We can
Timberlake
save
because
it. It's fine.
That's completely messed up. A team of researchers from the University of Waterloo have a neat new project that they're going to work on here, Kat. They're trying to figure out how we can use the moon's soil to create energy and help support life on the moon. The goal is to provide the energy that'll be required for doing the kind of long-term things that we need to do on the moon, like work and live and use it as an en route to get to Mars.
Right.
They say it would be too expensive to haul all the things that we need to create life on the moon from Earth. So we've got to create it on the moon. In other words, we don't need to stick some big fucking diesel generator in a space shuttle and fly it to the moon and then send up another one with all kinds of gas to keep it running. We need to use the moon's soil to create energy. But how do we do that? Well, in come the brainiacs at the University of Waterloo. That's their problem to figure out now, and I'm sure they will. It is weird to think that people are going to be living on the moon in our lifetime, living there.
Why don't they bring a 3D printer there? They could print all kinds of shit. I mean, I know it's not going to power anything, but once things are powered up there, you bring a 3D printer, you just print a bunch of shit off, can't you?
How do we plug in the printer?
Well, once you get the energy, I mean.
Ah, yes.
Once you get the energy down pat, then you can bring that up there, and then you don't have to haul a bunch of shit.
Well, it's neat because they're going to take this moon soil. Is it soil? Is that what we would call it? Or is soil unique to Earth? In any case, they're going to take
rocks.
The dirt on the moon there. And not only do they have to figure out a way to try and power what they're doing with that moon dirt, They've also got to find out if they can use it as a construction material. In other words, if you want to build a home here on Earth, yeah, you've got to get all kinds of materials together, your wood, your cinder blocks, your whatever it is you need. You got to dig a foundation if that's the way it's going to go, and you put all your materials in the hole and it stacks up to a house. We're not going to fly a whole bunch of cinder blocks from Earth to the moon, so they've got to use this moon shit to try and create homes and businesses on the moon.
Are we forgetting the Harvard thing that came out about the aliens living under there somewhere?
Oh, they could be living underneath the moon, absolutely.
We're just going to like drill and do shit? All right, fine.
Well, I wouldn't really call it drill and do shit. I think we're
I
going
don't
to
know
try
what
and
the fuck
build
they're doing
stuff.
there.
And if one of these aliens pokes their head out of the ground and says, hey, fucker, what are you doing? I live here. Then we should probably stop and find out what the problem here is. I think it's a brilliant concept. What can we do with moon dirt? Is it enough to power a light bulb? Is it enough to power a city? Who knows? But I'm curious. In Hamilton, man, the crime in Hamilton is getting out of control, by the way.
Is it more so than other areas? I feel like the crime in general is out of control lately.
It is, but I mean, I read this Hamilton stuff every day. And
Yeah.
Just Monday, Gage Park, 2 guys harassing another guy. Good Samaritan here steps in, tries to intervene. Yeah, he got stabbed. Taken to the hospital, non-life-threatening injuries. Paramedics had to treat him on the scene and again in hospital. And just to add a little insult to injury, the 2 guys who did it stole his shit before they rode away on bikes.
Wow.
This guy's laying there after he had just been stabbed. They took his phone and his wallet and fled off.
Wow. Real pieces of shit there.
And you know what? That's not even something that a judge would take into account when it comes to sentencing. You know, I feel like these guys are going to get bail. If they got caught, the judge will say, you're probably not that bad. All right, bail, come back to court in a month and we'll figure out what we're going to do with you.
Yeah.
That seems horrible to me. You know, I mean, if there's a mitigating factor like that, no bail, leave them in jail until they get it figured out. We went through a whole stretch there last week where there was a bunch of schools closed because of bomb threats. Police have made their first arrest.
Okay.
12-year-old.
Okay.
12 years old, phoning 911 to phone in a bomb threat at their school.
So, was this a pretend bomb threat? By that, do I mean like, was there ever a bomb or any kind of explosive device?
Police did an extensive search of the school. No suspicious package or threats were found. They identified the person responsible and confirmed it was a hoax. It is a child from Norfolk County. They'll be facing charges, and they will not be facing charges because they're only 12, and their identity is protected under the Youth Criminal Justice Act.
Oh, your favorite act.
It's my favorite act. Oh, yeah, sure. I love it. One more thing here. Have you ever had Bench Brewing beer?
I'm not familiar with that. No.
They're in Beamsville. Their Lincoln Lager is getting recognition after it just won the gold medal from the Canadian Brewery Awards last month. It's a North American lager-style beer, and it just won for best beer.
Okay, well, people want to try it now, I'm sure.
Bench Brew. Where the fuck do you buy that? You know, I hear about some of these breweries every now and again, and they're everywhere. They are everywhere. You can drive through any town and find people making craft beers or things like that, microbreweries, craft breweries, but they don't stock them in a lot of stores.
Like, to be honest with you, like, it's not for me. I'm not the demo, I guess, because I'm not a big beer drinker to begin with. I'd like 2 beers. Okay, maybe like 3 beers. And even then I nurse the shit out of them. I will sit there and sip on 1 beer for like an hour and a half. I'm that person. So that said, I don't understand the craft beer thing, man. I haven't had one that I've ever thought tastes okay enough to drink the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like, I've had sips and gone, wow, this isn't good. Not a lot of good craft breweries. Minus a couple, like I said, minus a couple that I like. I have my go-tos, but otherwise, you couldn't convince me to drive somewhere to drink it, even though it won an award. Is what I'm trying to say. Because I think that's basically the equivalent of like the most mediocre thing.
We're looking for the next best thing, and with all these breweries around, you got to think that with some of the brew masters that are employed working there, apparently trying to develop new recipes, sooner or later we'd find the new Stella Artois or the new Heineken or the new. You name it, whatever popular beer there is. But so far, the big guys are still at the top and the little guys just don't seem to be getting any further up. And I'm not sure if that's marketing or if that's just the beer isn't as good. Like you said yourself, you don't like it. I don't like most of them, but I'm a little picky about beer.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely picky. I think that the people who like it will go back and buy it, but I think it's also hard for them to supply that much. Usually crafters only make small batches. So even if there is something you like, I find it to not be too consistent either. That's the other problem. I've had ones where I'm like, oh, that's actually palatable. Like, that's not too bad. And then I go back and have it. I'm like, that doesn't taste the same to me. So maybe that is a difference in technique. I'm not going to pretend like I know. I mean, that said, I don't know how to fucking make beer. So mine would probably be cock awful. But
I noticed the same thing with weed.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll get something I really like, and then I'll go back to buy more of it, and
Not the same.
It's not the same, or the potency is different on this batch, and things like that. I hate that. We talked about psilocybin yesterday, the magic mushrooms.
Yeah.
So many people took the time to send me a message about psilocybin, and I think the best way to describe it.
Yeah. The
is
high? Are you talking about the high?
the
Me
high.
too. Me too. People DM me to try to describe their high as well.
So one person put it to me in a way, I'm going to see if I can grab it here from my DMs because it made a lot of sense. Where is
Yeah,
this
please. Because the
message?
only one I've heard is from that person that shall remain nameless in my life that says colors just look brighter.
This person says, I had a psilocybin chocolate bar. Small dose, barely felt anything. They say it'll enhance your state of mind based on your current state. So if you're in a bad place mentally when you start your trip,
Don't do it.
It's going to be a rough trip. But if you're in a positive state of mind, it'll probably be a positive trip. And I don't know how much to read into that, but this person's tried it, and I got to accept their feedback on it. That's an interesting take. I just don't know how far or how close we are away from legalization. If they legalize it, I want to try it. If they don't legalize it, I don't think I'm gonna.
Okay. I might. If I do, I'll tell you guys all about it.
Okay, good, because I'm really curious. You go first and let me know.
Yeah.
What was your instant reaction when you heard yesterday Justin Timberlake busted for a DUI?
Like, what an idiot. That was my first initial reaction. Like, what an idiot. Like, why would you do that? He already has not the greatest PR over the last couple of years, right? And that's the first thing that I go to. I wasn't necessarily one of those people that canceled Justin Timberlake just because of the Britney Spears thing. It was disappointing to hear how he was at the time they were together, okay? But I wasn't one of these people that was like, I hope he burns in hell. I wasn't one of those people, okay? So I was still like, yeah, Justin Timberlake's okay. His new music, meh. His album, in fact, didn't even I think it cracked the top 200 in its first week for a bit, and then it was out. The album, out of the top 200. That's pretty bad. So he had some bad PR from it. That said, though, his tour sold decent amount of tickets. There's still a lot of people who still want to see Justin Timberlake, okay? So all those things crossed my mind. Number one, how's this going to look for the tour? But yeah, like, what a stupid thing to do. There's there's zero excuse. And I think money has nothing to do with it. Like, I hear people say, like, with all the money he has, that should have nothing to do with it. That shouldn't matter. It doesn't mean we excuse people who don't have money. Oh, but they don't have a lot of money, so it's okay that they fucking drove into, someone's house. Like, no, it's inexcusable. You're going to drink. Choose either not to if you don't want to Uber or you don't have the money to, because you had the money to drink. So how do you not have the money to Uber? It's a fucking dumb excuse. So yeah, I was just all around very, very, very disappointed.
Apparently the cop didn't know who he was.
Which is great.
The cop was so young, he didn't know who Justin Timberlake was.
It's just fantastic. That's so funny to me. What a humbling moment. So he blew a stop sign first, apparently, then was swerving. So that's the reason he got pulled over. A lot of people, by the way, think low-key someone might have called it in, knowing he was about to go into his car.
Interesting.
We don't know that, and we don't know who he was with. But once he was pulled over, he did all the sobriety field tests, etc., failed them all miserably, refused a breathalyzer.
3 times. 3 times the cop said to him, hey, you blow this, otherwise it's a charge. And he still refused to do it. He'd rather take a criminal charge and have a record for life than admit or have the breathalyzer confirm that he was driving double the legal limit, 3 times the legal limit, whatever it is.
But that's it, though, because that headline would have sounded more harsh to some people. Justin Timberlake driving 3 times, 4 times over the legal limit is a worse headline than him just being jailed for DWI. That's in his mind probably what he was thinking.
Says he had 1 martini and followed his friends home.
Then he should have done a breathalyzer.
Yeah, why wouldn't you do a breathalyzer, though, if you only had 1 martini?
Because he's fucking lying. He's a fucking liar. That's why. Bloodshot as fuck, too. You see that mugshot?
That mugshot is not good.
Not good.
Like, what was he thinking?
I'm also, okay, the other thought that I thought about Jessica Biel right away.
Jessica Biel.
I am, like if that was me, I put myself in Jessica Biel's position here. They have 2 young kids. They've got prominent careers. They're well known. She's been with him through the entire Britney Spears thing. And I'm sure it's possible they talked about it. We talked about that at the time. Like, who cares? That's none of our business. However, that couple dealt with something that happened in his past, right? Who knows? You get through that. Good for you, babe. Put it in an album. I'm going to be over here working. You do your thing. He was already in a lot of cases filmed being highly intoxicated. You might remember in New Orleans, people had to physically pick him up out of his chair. There's video footage of it.
Yep.
He's been seen multiple times with many beverages. Not to say that makes one an alcoholic. However, a lot of people piecing this together with he probably has a drinking problem. Jessica Biel getting a phone call, no doubt maybe from him from jail or from someone else saying, hey, fuck, this is on TMZ. Just so you know, Justin just got fucking arrested for DWI. Can't be a nice feeling for her either.
I don't think it is.
Who just wants her husband to, I don't know, be out of the public eye and for the bad things, right?
Who is he with? Him and Jimmy Fallon are best buddies. And Jimmy Fallon's history with alcohol is well known as well. He hangs out with a circle that is well known as a bunch of partiers. Nothing wrong with that, but you've got to be responsible and not drive
That's
when you're out doing that.
That's key. Like, who cares? Go party. You want to party? Go party. Who fucking cares? Just, you could have, if he hurt somebody, this would have been a different story. People would be reacting with not such, oh, guys, as if you haven't made mistakes. It's easy for you to say that, like when he didn't harm anyone now and this time. But that's obviously a habit he has.
He was driving a 2025 BMW. Didn't even know you could get a 2025 Beamer right now.
You can when you're Justin.
Apparently you can. As for Jessica, apparently she's filming in New York right now. Mm-hmm. This happened in the Hamptons, which is an extension of Long Island, by the way. So really not that far away. She did not have to go and bail him out. He was arrested at 12:30. They left him in the bin until 9:30, and then they let him go. No bail requirement here, but he has to return to court on July 26th, where presumably he's going to get handed a big fine and he's going to lose his license.
Yeah, and they're letting him do it virtually, too, because he's supposed to be in, like, Poland.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Oh, he'll be in Europe? Oh, that makes things a little different. Yeah, it's disappointing, right? I wish he hadn't done that. I really was hoping that he could turn things around. Yeah. I'm guessing this puts the probability of an NSYNC reunion tour on hold for quite a while now. I mean, that's not going to be, hey, as soon as the Timberlake tour is done, there's going to be an NSYNC tour. That's not going to happen now. He's probably got other things on his mind, and the rest of the band might want to let this marinate for a little bit, let it die down before they head out on the road.
I'm just curious how the rest of his tour will go, but so far it's as early as this weekend. Is it Friday he plays in Chicago? Something along those lines. So
and then he's back to New York after that.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if he'll say something. He's probably got to release a statement of some kind, or if not, he'll talk in front of the crowd. Depends what his lawyer says, I guess.
The ratings are in for Pat Sajak's final goodbye as host of Wheel of Fortune, an audience of 11 million, and they are doing cartwheels at the studio. 11 million people watched, and that's huge for TV and a fraction of the high TV numbers that we used to see. But I guess we live in a world now where 11 million is great.
Yeah, we certainly do.
Ryan Seacrest takes over next season, and what was this? This is the biggest Wheel of Fortune in 4 years, did you say? Or
yeah,
ever?
I think it was 4 years. I think it was 4 or 5 years. There was one, I don't know what it was, but there obviously was one standalone episode that had a lot of people watching it. I'm not sure if it was some kind of a special. I don't know.
The game shows are on a lot.
Yeah, they are.
You can watch Price is Right at night now. Mm-hmm. You can watch, obviously, Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy or Staples at 7 and 7:30.
There's celebrity versions of everything. There's going to be more, too. You got Hollywood Squares coming up soon, which looks really good. The Celebrity, Are You Smarter Than a Celebrity, hosted by Travis Kelce, is coming out this fall. There's a lot of game shows. Family Feud, then you got the Beach Shazams. I mean, a lot of newer ones, right?
Totally. Is that because it's cheaper to produce that shit than it is to produce a sitcom or to produce a drama series? It has to be. Like, why else would there be so many game shows on television?
And also, it is cheaper because you can bank. They bank that shit. They usually do, like, some of them could film as much as in one day, get 8 weeks of filming. Because you could film 8 episodes in one day if you line it up right. So for them, that's so much cheaper to have one studio date, set the studio up. We're filming 8 episodes. Come back next week. We're going to film 8 more. And next thing you know, you're done the fucking that season.
That's why Ryan Seacrest wanted to do this show. It's so easy. It's a cash cow for him. He can walk in and easily bang off 2 weeks worth of episodes for an entire day of shooting. And bam, he's done for a couple of weeks. And it only runs from September to December and from February until June. What a great gig.
It's a great gig. He's got it made. And he'll still be able to do his New Year's Eve shit and his radio show. He's not giving it up.
No, this is a very minor distraction to make millions of extra dollars a year. That guy has got it down pat. He's just got this formula for making money. It's wild. Have you heard of Waabi? Waabi? Waabi?
No.
Canadian company, by the way, and they just secured over $200 million in funding from investors to launch self-driving freight trucks. They'll launch initially in 2025 in Texas. Among the investors are AI chip giant NVIDIA, Volvo, Radical Ventures, and Export Development Canada. These trucks will be able to, without a person in them, drive that Amazon truck from the distribution center to another distribution center or wherever with no human intervention, with no need to slow down and let the driver take a rest. No need for any of that. It'll just go. And I don't know how I'm going to feel about seeing a self-driving truck on the road.
I don't know either. I mean, to try to make myself feel better, if this helps anyone else, is that there's a lot of human error with some freight drivers now. Right? There is distraction. There are people who drive when of course, legally, they're supposed to pull over and rest a certain amount of hours into their shift, or every certain amount of hours, X amount. There's a legal limit, if you will, to that. However, some still possibly could be distracted, and that is a really massive weapon. A freight is a really massive thing that could turn into a weapon easily, and certainly has killed many, 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 many people. Now, sometimes that's because of the car drivers around them and the other vehicles around them, not to say it's all up to the truck driver, of course. However, it's a scary thought to think nobody's in it. Good luck, Texas. I mean, I wonder how they're feeling there.
I would assume it's neat to be honored like, hey, we're going to be the test area, but it's also kind of scary to know that you're the test area. I've never driven an 18-wheeler. I'd love to, though. I think it looks so fucking cool.
Oh my God, it scares the shit out of me.
Me too, though. I'd love to, but it scares me. I've talked to some great truck drivers over the years that are amazing listeners to the Scott and Kat radio show and presumably the podcast as well. So if you're one of them, thank you. One of the things that concerns me that I'm just not sure how AI or mapping software can solve is it really kind of depends on what you're carrying. So these freight trucks that drive around driverless, I mean, you can stick it on the road here and say, go to the Amazon Fulfillment Center in Kelowna, British Columbia. See you in 3 days. And it'll just do it. It'll just drive. It'll power through. It doesn't need to take breaks. It will need to refuel.
That's what I'm wondering about. Don't they need to refuel, or are they going to take shorter trips to begin with?
Well, that's a good question. I think they will need to stop and refuel. I'm just not sure how they calculate how that gets done. At some point, a human has got to go and stick the nozzle in the actual truck.
Yeah.
And I think it's electric, but it might not be electric. I don't actually know.
Oh.
Either way, it's going to need fuel. So sure, it'll have to stop most of the time. But, I'm thinking about those transports that are carrying like gas, or the milk ones, or the ones that are carrying water, those big tanker trucks. Mm-hmm. When they stop and all the liquid in the back starts sloshing back and forth, that has a big impact. If some asshole driver cuts right in front of you and they got to brake hard, that's how a jackknife happens. And I'm wondering, how can we prevent that using this technology? Or is there any way to prevent that? Mm-hmm. Maybe we should put a barrier around it so you can't get within 10 feet of the fucking thing. I don't know. But there's certain things that a good, skilled, trained driver knows how to handle, knows how to deal with it. Black ice when you're driving around in Canada.
Yeah.
That's another great one.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can program AI to deal with turn out of the swerve and things like that.
Yeah.
What to do when all the gasoline in the back or the oil starts sloshing around and the truck is rocking back and forth.
Right.
I don't know how you can program technology to do that. And frankly, it worries me a little bit.
No, and that's when you'd have to rely on humans. Think about if there's a truck bed open or something is hanging off of the truck or they are dragging something. Usually it would take someone flagging someone down. maybe there'd be cameras. Maybe the technology is good enough where it would understand that something seems to be wrong and it would pull itself over. But that leads to a whole bunch of other questions.
I'm also wondering, is a person going to have to be in the truck just there in case they got to take over, or in case something happens that it's not programmed for, or whatever? I don't know, but it doesn't actually save much money if you've got to have a person in the truck.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what the point is, but we'll see where it goes. Either way, it is coming. And the good news is it's a Canadian startup that's doing it. Last thing here, and then we got to go. Less than a year after they launched it, Apple is shutting down the buy now, pay later option, which let users essentially take out a loan of up to $1,000 and then pay off that money in 4 installments across 6 weeks. In other words, I'd really like to order this through Apple Pay, but I can't afford it. Oh, buy now, pay later. Okay, I'll get it. It'll get shipped to me and I'll just pay Apple back. Now, one thing I know about Apple is they're very, very good at making money. They don't often turn down successful business models. So I have to think they were probably getting screwed and a lot of people weren't paying back their loan.
I think so too. That's what it tells me, is that people were not paying it back.
I was optimistic about this. I thought, it's like the 2024 version of layaway. Okay, great. Except maybe you shouldn't actually get the item. You could probably pay in installments, but it's not a buy now, pay later kind of deal. So it probably could have used some refining, but I thought that this was the beginning of Apple getting into being essentially a bank.
Well, it could be, though. That was what I was going to say. Was the second option is they're pulling back on this because they're going to introduce something else.
You know, if you look at the shady stuff that goes on with TD, RBC, CIBC, Scotiabank, all the big Canadian banks that are just making bank off of these interest rates that we're paying right now.
Oh, it's insane.
And then you look at a company like Apple, who's a little expensive, but so far everything we own from Apple seems to work just fine. It seems like their devices are fairly secure. Would you be more likely to trust Apple with your money or to trust Scotiabank, TD, RBC? Could you get behind a bank by Apple?
I don't think I'd be willing to do it right away, no.
Really?
No.
Why? What is it about them? What is it you don't trust?
I feel like if I put my money in there, then I'd have to update. There'd be a lot of updates in my bank account.
You can't withdraw until you run the latest update?
I just don't that's not who they are. And I've said I do enjoy companies, like I will invest in or what have you, companies that do one thing and do it pretty good. You know what I mean? That for Apple to be into phones and watches and accessories and also take care of your bank, it's too much. Mm-hmm. I like one place. I am a bank. Cool. So yes, you do loans on the side and all these things, but you are a bank. Great. I don't need someone who's also dabbling in electronics on the side. Like if RBC started to come out with phones, flip phones or something like that, I'd be like, okay, fuck that. Or Scotiabank all of a sudden was like, yeah, guys, we're also going to have a smartphone that we put out, or any number of electronic. I mean, fill in the blank. Like, why? Fucking focus on what you do. So Apple should focus on what they do. I wouldn't be willing to take part in it.
Let's ask someone who's a little younger than us. Octavia, producer of the Scott and Kat Show. Hey, if Apple came out with a bank and it worked just like, what are those Canadian banks where you don't actually have any banks, like Tangerine and shit?
Yeah.
You just deposit your money virtually, and then from there you can access your money. Would you be willing to do that with Apple?
No, I'm not really somebody that uses technology at all, even to bank. I don't like that. And
really?
The lack of establishment that Apple has as a banking institution kind of freaks me out as well. So
what does that mean? Like, do you have a banking app on your phone?
No.
Really? Do you e-transfer money to people ever?
No.
Really?
What? Really?
How do you give, if I loaned you $20 because you forgot your wallet, most people would just transfer me the $20 when they got home. You don't do that.
I will bring you a 20.
No kidding.
Yeah, I don't like it. I like the physicality of actually having it in hand, because I think it gets hard to keep track of, and people don't care to keep track of it as much if you can't physically see it. That's my opinion, though.
Interesting. That's a good point. Apple as a bank, you could probably get a mortgage through them, couldn't you? You could probably get a car loan through Apple, couldn't you? Imagine that. Oh.
None of it sounds good.
Sounds
I just
great.
think you should not trust that. I would run far away from that.
Gotta go, everybody. Have yourselves a fantastic hump day. We will see you tomorrow for another After 9.
Bye-bye.
Around 150 million Americans are expected to experience temperatures above 90 degrees this week, thanks to what they call a heat dome. I always thought the heat dome was that weird helmet thing my grandma sat under at the hair salon. It'll be so hot in Maine this week, the lobsters will be getting in pots just to cool down. It's so hot in New York this week, the rats are wearing crop tops.
McDonald's said last week that it's removing artificial intelligence technology from more than 100 drive-thrus. Apparently, it had started telling people they should go somewhere else and get a salad.
Google's Pixel 2 watch can now detect when you've been in a car crash, which is important to know. Okay, so if you're driving at high speed down the highway, remember, the safest thing to do is to keep looking at your watch to see if you've crashed.